I lay claim to the entire planet Earth. It's all mine. And all who are righteous, all who accept to be righteous, all that are wicked and who seek to change, can inherit eternal life simply by receiving me. To receive me is to receive my Father Yahweh and to receive his law.
Just to straighten the record, because as I mentioned, I think at the beginning of the show, there is some confusion. There are two groups that consider themselves to be black Israelites. The one, the Yahwehs down here, headed by you, Yahweh Ben Yahweh. There's another group that I'm sure you're familiar with in Chicago. What can you tell me about them? I think they're headed by a fellow named Ben Ami Carter.
I'm not in any way responsive to them, except they come from America as the rest of our people do. Their tenets, their beliefs, their practices, we have absolutely nothing to do with them. Whatever anyone would want to know about that group, I would suggest they let a representative from that group speak for them. I'm here to speak of my teachings from Yahweh.
One of the reasons I think this is kind of important, and I think this may, because we're here today to discuss a lot of the misunderstandings that have existed about the Yahwehs, but I think confusion between the two groups, because people tend on the outside to classify you together, and I think maybe, you know, your group has taken the rap for a lot of things that perhaps were, you know, emanated from the Chicago group, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to kind of clarify that. There has been, in fact, we have about 60 seconds left for our news update at the bottom of the hour. We'll discuss this thing I'm going to bring up a little further after the hour. The rap, the misunderstanding that has existed on the outside about the Yahwehs has traditionally been, if you stop the average man on the street and you say, what do you know about the Yahwehs, probably the first association they would have is they say this group is anti-white. I want to get to the root of that and to find out, has there been an evolution in the group? A lot of the quotes attributed to the early newsletters that I've read and stuff do seem to have a hostility towards whites, but I sense there has been an evolution and a change in the group over the years. Am I accurate on that?
Excuse me. In coming to a mentally dead people who have been buried in the mud of civilization for 6,000 years, a people in America who've been subject to what I explained earlier, a total amnesia about history, culture, language, name, land, God, being a subservient people to another in physical bondage for 310 years, in 1865 supposedly freed, but only on a physical level, but not a mental and spiritual level for historical perspective to make us on par with all other ethnic groups that come to America. We've been deprived of that. Now, when you want to go in and to rescue a group of people who are suffering from that type of condition, you can't just go in and blow a nice, easy breath at them.
Got to wake them up.
They have to be awakened and shocked into an awakening state. And I did that. And I don't apologize for doing that. It's an absolute necessary phenomenon to happen. Now, you have to judge me according to my works and my disciples. What is the outcome of my shocking a group and then those who become my disciples from among that group? What's my work with them? You'll find...
I'll tell you what, we have to take that news update. In fact, that's a kind of a good place to break off, because when we get back, you can tell us a little bit about what's involved today and what's going on with the Yahwehs, and because I understand from Ellis, having visited your temple, some nice things are happening there. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Steve Kane on WIOD News Talk Radio 610. We'll be back after this news update. Steve Kane back with you on 610 WIOD. My guest, Yahweh Ben Yahweh. We talked a little bit, Yahweh, about the previous history of your group and the fact that some of the feelings that people have that you don't believe in black supremacy. Is that a fair statement? Because some of the early statements sort of seem black supremacist to me.
All right, I'm going to ask you to ask that question again in just a moment. I wanted to continue just for a second on the works of my followers.
Oh, okay.
And judging me by my works. What happened to this shock treatment?
Yeah. Okay.
That's
hey, listen, you can run the show. It's not every day I have God in the studio. Go ahead.
Praise Yahweh. All right. My followers come from, they're part of, all so-called blacks of America.
You don't have any white followers?
Who are, oh yes.
You do?
But that's not the issue at the moment.
Okay. I want to hear about that.
All right. The facts are Our people generally are known to be lazy, shiftless, trifling, drunks, profane users.
Oh, that's the stereotype.
These are the things that we're people accused of. Dope addicts, low life, etc. A burden on American society, welfare recipients, the whole negative connotation for all that's bad for people. I've taken this people that's categorized like this, turn them into the very opposite of those things. My works prove that they're thrifty, they are economically empowered, businessmen and women, educators. We have our own schools with the most beautifully educated children you ever want to see or hear or experience. They are not on drugs. We don't have any AIDS among us because we don't have the things that make for that. We don't have alcoholics among us, drug addicts. We're a very beautiful, disciplined group of people who are the best citizens America has. And we're proud of that. And that's my work. When we move into a neighborhood, we don't run from the ghetto. And we make, when we come into possession of properties within the ghetto, we invite the world to come and take a tour. We were listed as number 6 on must tours for Miami. We think we should be number 1. You come and look at our properties, it's absolutely spotless. You don't find any paper on it. In fact, we emphasize cleanliness to such an extent that in the front of our properties, in the street, in the median, we clean it. And that's wherever we are, it's like that. So we really are an asset to the community of formerly mentally destroyed people.
Why is everybody so afraid of the Yahwehs? Because they are. I mean, hopefully this show will do something to dispel some of their fears, but surely you perceive that. There's a tremendous paranoia about the Yahwehs in the community.
I think that came about through a few misdirected reporters, a few misinformed reporters who didn't bother to come and talk with us and see exactly what we are about and what we teach and what we produce.
Where do you stand on violence?
Excuse me. Our 7-year history has proven that we're the most nonviolent people on earth. We're forbidden to carry weapons. My Father Yahweh forbids me to carry weapons. And I forbid all my disciples to carry weapons. But, as you know, it's quite the opposite for America. In South Florida, I think for a while, if it's not still the law, you can walk around with a 6-shooter on your hip. We don't carry any weapons.
Well, why? In fact, when we were talking before the show, you were saying when you move into a neighborhood, the drug dealers, let's face it, are not easily intimidated. They run like hell. They're scared to death. That's not a bad thing, I suppose. But I mean, what is it they're afraid? There is a mystique or something that makes what? I mean, let's talk about the drug dealers. Why are they so scared? Why do they just take off? The police can't drive them away. The police run around with guns and they're armed and all this kind of stuff, and the drug dealers just walk right past them, not scared. But when the Yahwehs move in, they move out. Why is that?
Because they know that Yahweh is God. They know that Yahweh is great, good, terrible, and black. And that he being the supreme being, they respect that fact. And they know that we used to be among them as a group of people, but we no longer are. So we have changed to their opposite. So then the God of the universe, the creator, the word of Yahweh carries a power, just a name. Just his name is power, it's glory, it's honor, and I invite the world to look his name up in encyclopedias, interpreters' dictionaries, and do a study of the name, just the name alone, Yahweh, and you will discover that it carries a power, and that's what they feel, and that's what everybody feels.
I want to get back to the original question I asked about black supremacy. Do you identify with that term at all? Because some of the early stuff, obviously, in your written material that you said you used to shock people out of their complacency did tend to indicate that, well, quite rightfully, I guess, that blacks have been exploited by whites traditionally, and the white man.